Welcome to the One Stage at a Time podcast. I'm Aaron Neeson.
I'm Andy Prim.
And we're joined once again with Jay Sala.
Here.
Welcome, Jay. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Jay.
We're playing through Super Mario Brothers for the Nintendo Entertainment System. This episode, we're playing through World 3-3.
Yep.
Yeah, I just played through it. Jay just played through it. Andy is already well versed in it. Before we start, he played through it not too long ago, though.
Earlier today.
Yeah, earlier today he played through it, and that was an interesting level.
Yeah, what'd y'all think of this level?
Jay,
I felt somewhat restricted with the treetops or the grass. Well, it felt like it kind of constricted you to certain things. I did like that level, though.
Cool.
I
Good to
did
hear
like
it.
Is it cranes, or what would you call the things? The little pulley thing?
Yeah, they're like pulleys.
Yeah.
Balance beams, something like that.
Yeah, scales almost.
Yeah, scales. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That was a first.
That was the first. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the first. We'll get to the first soon, but
that's the only first for this stage.
Is it really?
Yeah, pretty much.
Are there moving girders in other levels?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we've seen them before.
Okay. I know we've seen up and down moving girders, just on their own, like on a set, like down, down, and then other rope, up.
We've seen them in Bowser stages, I think.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
You're right. Absolutely. You're right. But yeah, no, the scales were first, so that's covered.
So you like the stage, Aaron?
I actually really did.
Cool.
I really liked this stage. It had a bunch of interesting enemies, at least one set of perfectly suited interesting enemies for this, being the red Koopas. And the moving platforms were interesting, and the setup of the treetops were interesting. This was an acrobatic stage. I hope that everybody who's listening to this podcast are playing along as well as they can.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Because you'll get the most out of it if you do. But yeah, no, this was an acrobatic stage up in the treetops, and it was great. It was great. I loved that level. That level was fun.
Yeah, I agree with both of y'all. It's we're on. I'm not sure if they're intended to be trees or giant mushrooms or like baobab trees or what. But in any case, we're up on these platforms, up in the air. It's still nighttime. We're still in the night world, and yeah, it's exciting. This is, like Aaron said, an acrobatic or an athletic stage. We've seen a few of these so far, but yeah, these are always kind of maybe a little more dangerous because you're suspended above like basically nothing, jumping from platform to platform. But I love it. I think this is a wonderful stage.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, it was fantastic. I had a lot of fun. It was challenging. It wasn't super easy, but it also wasn't super hard yet. I imagine that much harder stages are still to come.
For sure. One thing that's cool about this stage is, like you mentioned, there's a lot of red Koopa Troopas, and the difference between red and green, if you're not aware, is that green will walk off ledges, red will not. There's a lot of instances where a red Koopa Troopa walks towards the edge of a mushroom platform and then turns around and walks back the other way. And it can kind of confuse you, like if you're not sure, is this guy about to walk on me? Is it safe to jump right now? They're just maybe like just slightly trickier than the green Koopa Troopa.
Yeah, they're slightly trickier, but at the same time, I feel like if the platform's above you, the green Koopa Troopas are more dangerous.
Because they would like fall on your
head.
Right.
They're coming for you.
Yeah, they're coming.
They're so dumb that they're just going to fall off and kill you. So in that regard, like the red Koopa Troopas, while they're smarter and like they're a continuing threat, the green Koopa Troopas, like they were more of a problem for me, because especially when the platform was above you, they would drop down on top of you, and it's harder to avoid that.
Yeah, for sure. And we've been meaning to mention this for a couple of episodes now, but there's actually a trick in World 3-1 that we forgot to mention involving the green Koopa Troopas. There's a couple of Koopa Troopas walking down the stairs at the end of the stage leading to the flagpole. And if you jump on one of these Koopa Troopas just right and kick their shell like towards the steps and just continuously jump off of it, your point value increases every time you bounce. And if you do it enough times, you eventually start scoring 1-ups each time you do it. And you can just keep doing that and rack up a crazy amount of extra lives.
Yeah. Andy showed it to us, and it was clunky. It was clunky, but it was functional.
Yeah,
you got a bunch of luck.
I don't think it's an intended glitch. maybe they knew about it, but
There's no way they knew about it. There's absolutely no way. They didn't have gamers back then like they do now. No beta testers.
there
to
was no
find
quality assistance.
I mean,
or
like, I'm
assurance,
sure that
quality
they had.
assurance.
I'm sure they had quality assurance, but like, there was like 6 dudes. They didn't have time to like
That's
test
true,
that.
yeah. It was a
There's
skeleton
no way.
crew.
But like, Jay, have you found secrets like that in Super Mario World?
Oh yeah, I'll
Yeah?
show a couple after this thing just for funsies. But yeah, there's one. I can't tell you the name of the level, but essentially you hit a P. I know I'm all about the P, and then you go
Phrasing.
backwards and you rack up all the coins by, I guess the Koopa Troopas or whatever. They turn into P's, so they turn into coins. You get all the coins and you can get like 50 lives. But, so it's nothing
Ooh.
crazy like that amount. But you do that twice, and the maximum amount you can get is 99 lives anyway.
I
So you
think
can
I
play
know
that
what,
level twice and you can get 99 lives.
you know what? Now that you mentioned that, that sounds familiar. I think I might know which one you're talking about. Is that like above Vanilla Dome? Like after you?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, I know which one you're talking about. Yeah, that's a cool trick. Yeah.
So is that a glitch exploit, or is it like just a way to utilize the
Say
game?
it's a glitch. However, one glitch in Super Mario World is it's got nothing to do with points, but I can get inside the game.
Explain yourself.
Say more,
sir.
yeah.
Explain yourself.
Okay.
What are you doing? Don't.
I'm trying to explain myself, but
Well, you got to have your microphone on, man.
I will in a second. So basically, like, go down there, have Mario.
Okay, well. Okay, so Jay just got up and pointed at the screen and pointed. Right now we have Mario in a castle. We're about to play World 3-4, so it's paused at the beginning of that. He just said, have Mario go down there, and pointed to beneath the floor of the level.
Yep.
In the actual bricks of
okay.
the level.
So you're like going inside the stage, basically.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Exploring where Mario should not be.
Correct.
Okay.
And I'll show that later.
Well,
If you'd like.
if you can describe it for us, or don't, whatever.
It's in the third world. Let's see here.
That would be Vanilla Dome, right?
Let me see if that's an accurate statement. Let me think about this. Yeah, third world, about the fourth level. No. Third world, second level.
Third world, second level.
Third world, second level.
How do
for
you
sure.
get there?
How do you get there?
Yeah.
You start from world 1, level 1.
yeah.
No,
How do you
not-
get to the level?
Not
or
how do you get to the level?
secret?
How when you get in there? How do you do the secret?
Just prior to the halfway point in the game, you'll see that there's one of those running football-looking dudes who's trying to chase you.
Yeah, charge and check.
You kill him, and then you use Mario's cape. You have to have the cape, and you flip the yellow bricks. And if you flip it just right, you will fall between and into the game. You'll still be alive, too.
So you kind of glitch your way in there with the yellow blocks, like push you inside.
Yep.
Interesting.
I can't explain Mario for crap, I know.
No, it's fine.
Are
It's
there
fine.
any glitches in the game? Yeah, you can get inside the game.
Well, what do you mean?
It's like Tron. or whatever.
Yeah, you got to build a hyper advanced digitizing beam, and then you get in the game. Tron was an interesting movie, but I really liked the sequel that they made in like 2012.
I like Tron
It's pretty
Legacy
great.
also.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great, man.
It was really good.
A lot of people pan that movie. I don't really know why. I think it's very entertaining.
I don't know why either. Like
Saw it in
it wasn't a perfect film by any means. It had flaws, but it was really entertaining. It was.
yeah.
Well,
I will just straight up say it was better than Tron.
yeah.
Well, I don't know.
Well, Tron.
I mean, definitely had a better soundtrack. That Daft Punk soundtrack is incredible. I
Tron-
still listen to that.
Tron was an interesting experiment, and it was impressive for its time. But as far as film goes, it doesn't hold up,
Okay. Yeah, that's
in my
fair.
opinion.
That's fair.
I didn't watch it as a kid, so I have no sentimental value towards it. I watched it as an adult, and I was like, "This movie isn't great."
My dad showed it to me as a kid because he knew I liked video games, and he was like, "Oh, this is a video game movie made by Disney."
Yeah.
And so he showed it to me, and I just remember being like, "What is happening in this movie? What is going on here?"
It's an impressive feat for its time. It's visually very interesting, and it's not. I'm not going to say it's a bad movie. It's not a bad movie.
Yeah, I
But-
liked it then, and I like it now.
Sure,
Yeah.
and that's great. And I would sit down and watch it and enjoy it and be like, that was fun. But it's the sequel is much more interesting and a better film overall, I would say.
I kind of agree that like as far as like plot and characters and stuff,
Yeah,
it's more engaging. I do think the original is more impressive in terms of technical achievements. Like
for its time,
the
yeah,
effects they got were
Yeah.
just insane for that time period.
But at the same time, the sequel was also very impressive technically because like they had young Jeff Bridges who admittedly looks weird in the
I
real
don't think he
world,
looks very good.
but what's his face? Clue
looks okay.
Clue looks great in the digital world because he's supposed to be a digital construct and he's supposed to be in that world. And I think that I haven't seen it in a couple of years, but I thought that he blended seamlessly and he looked great.
I agree. It's more believable once they're inside the grid.
Yeah. And Cora. Oh my.
Oof.
Oh my.
Let's see. Would you guys like to hear some statistics for World 3-3?
Yeah. Hit me.
Bring it on.
Here we go.
Stats.
We've got 22 coins. We've got 1 power up. And that's it. This is a pretty sparse level, even more sparse than World 3-2.
How many enemies were there? Do you have the enemies?
I don't have the enemy count on this one. I want to say there's maybe 7 or 8 Koopa Troopas. I haven't been counting enemies. I can start doing that. But
yeah, well, you had it for the last one, and I was just wondering if you had it
for the last one, just because there was such an amazing number. Yeah. For this one, it's just red Koopa Troopas.
No, you don't need to keep. You don't need to start doing that. I was just curious if you had it. It seemed like there were plenty, but at the same time, like thinking back on it, it was like there were probably only 10, maybe.
Yeah, there's not many.
That.
And the athletic stages tend to be the shortest stages in the game.
Yeah,
they're usually more difficult, so you might spend longer on them because you're dying more often. But yeah, 3-2 was pretty long compared to this one. Even though there's not a lot happening in 3-2, it's a gauntlet. You're just fighting waves of enemies.
That's what they did. They just like extended the level and put more enemies.
Yeah,
which is fine. Again, it's fine, but doesn't really make for that. It's not like horde mode in Gears of War, where you can get overwhelmed if you don't kill the enemies. You can just jump over them.
Yeah, it doesn't. It truly doesn't matter.
Yeah, but no, yeah. This one. I really liked this level, and it was much more memorable, even though there were much fewer enemies. I loved the section where there were like small treetops with gaps in between that you could run across, and I loved the scale parts. This level was just great.
Yeah, it's a nice level. The scales are great. That's a first, by the way. This is the first time we've seen those like balanced scales.
Yes, I think we covered that. Yeah.
And that's a cool thing. We see those a lot in the Mario canon in the future.
Oh yeah, they come back a lot later, but this was the first. Hello, welcome.
Yeah. So would you say this is your favorite stage so far?
I don't know if they'd be my favorite stage.
How about favorite in World 3?
Oh, definitely.
Jay, what do you think? Favorite in World 3?
Favorite World 3, yes.
Okay, well,
Jay, do you have a favorite level so far though? You haven't. I don't know if you remember.
We've got Yoshi in the room.
I don't know if you remember Worlds 1 and 2. I don't know from when you played last. We haven't played them with you here, but from your recollection, do you have a favorite stage in Super Mario Brothers?
I don't recall from my past, so I'm just judging it on the 3 levels I've seen here tonight.
Okay. Of the 3 so far, this one's your favorite.
That's my fave. Yep.
Giddy up.
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Well, how about some history, fellas?
Yes.
Some Nintendo history. Okay, well, I'm going to throw a name out at you. This is a name that I'm familiar with, a guy who is pretty important in terms of Nintendo.
Harry Truman.
Yep, you got it. Harry Truman.
Knew it.
I'd like to talk about a man called Gunpei Yokoi. Have either of you ever heard of Gunpei Yokoi?
I don't know about Gunpei.
Gunpei Yokoi?
Gunpei Yokoi.
I'm sorry, no, that wasn't meant to be a joke. I seriously am interested in the pronunciation. I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's Gunpei, Gunpei.
Gunpei.
Sometimes it's spelled Gum, so Gunpei. In Japanese, N and M are somewhat interchangeable. But anyway, it's Gunpei Yokoi.
Gunpei Yokoi.
Yeah, his family name is Yokoi.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a somewhat interesting name. Gunpei Yokoi is I mean I've said before, and I'll maintain that Hiroshi Yamauchi is the most important person when it comes to video games. But Gunpei Yokoi is pretty close.
Okay.
All right. I'm interested. Who is this person?
Well, he was an engineer who worked for Nintendo for many years. As a young man, fresh out of school, he started at Nintendo working on their assembly line, manufacturing Hanafuda cards. He was basically
So this was back in the 40s.
Yep. He would have started in probably the 50s at Nintendo, early 50s. He was a maintenance technician on their assembly line, basically taking care of these machines that made the Hanafuda cards. But last episode, we talked about Mr. Yamauchi's various wild ventures.
You like the ladies.
Mr. Yamauchi had an eye for beauty. None of them really worked out that well. He eventually decided to scrap all those ideas and go back to what Nintendo did best, which was novelties and toys. And he was looking for other avenues to branch out in. Nintendo was in basically every toy store in Japan selling their Hanafuda cards. So he already had this network of sales and relationships with these companies. So he wanted to leverage that and sell more toys. But he needed ideas. He had heard that Gunpei Yokoi was a very talented engineer and an inventor. Mr. Yokoi loved to mess around with little gadgets in his free time. So Mr. Yamauchi summoned Mr. Yokoi to his office and asked him for some ideas. He said, Mr. Yokoi reportedly said, what kind of idea do you want me to make? And Mr. Yamauchi said, a great one.
What a genius.
Yeah, what a king, right?
No. That's terrible. What an awful manager.
Well,
that's a tale from hell. Like, okay, I'm gonna reserve judgment until we see the results of everything. Because if he says make something great, and then the man went and made something great, and then got the recognition he deserves, then that's one thing. But if he was told to make something great and he did, and it was stolen away, and all the credit went to someone else, which I suspect might be the case, then that's a totally different story.
You might be surprised. This is definitely an example of Mr. Yamauchi's imperial and dictatorial style of management. But, he employed it to great success. If we can say nothing else about the man, it's that his strategies worked. So Mr. Yokoi brought a few inventions he'd been messing around with. One of them was something that was kind of like, y'all ever seen one of those like extendable boxing gloves where you like press a button and there's like a scissor type thing that extends and the boxing glove like springs out and like hits someone in the face. You know what I'm talking about,
like
right?
In cartoons.
Yeah, like in cartoons, but there's like real life toys of those too.
Sure.
Well, this was a toy kind of like that instead of a boxing glove on the end, it had like two like grabbers. So it would like extend out using like this scissor extender type thing and then grab something. And Mr. Yamauchi was really impressed by this novelty and agreed to manufacture it. He put Yokoi in charge of, bringing these things to market. And they did it, and it was a big hit. They called it the Nintendo Ultra Hand. It sold for pretty cheap, about $6, and just in Japan, though. But it was a huge hit, and Mr. Yokoi's reputation had been established. He became the head of Nintendo Research and Development Department Number 1, usually called R&D 1. And R&D 1 would be responsible for a lot of innovations in terms of video games and also some software. And we'll discuss more about, Mr. Yokoi's contributions to the industry and his contributions at Nintendo. But just really quick, some things that Mr. Yokoi was responsible for. Y'all have heard of a D-pad before, right? A directional pad.
The directional pad on every single controller that exists these days.
The very same.
Yeah.
You know who invented that?
Gunpei. You scamp.
Game & Watch. The handheld calculator size basic video games, basically the first handheld video games. You know who invented those?
I can venture a guess.
It was Gunpei Yokoi.
Ah, you guy.
Overachiever.
Let's see what else.
So I have him to blame for when Game & Watch rinses me in Smash Brothers.
Dude, yeah, Mr. Game & Watch is a beautiful animal, and his lack of any kind of telegraphing will just ruin your day. Mr. Yokoi, as head of R&D1, was producer of a lot of hit video games, for example, Kid Icarus, and of course the legendary Metroid. He was the producer of the Metroid series.
Really?
Yeah. Super Metroid bears his name as well. But Mr. Yokoi was also responsible for the Virtual Boy.
Oh, no. The poor man.
This is jumping ahead a little bit, but the Virtual Boy was, of course, a legendary failure. And, it cost Nintendo a lot of money. Mr. Yokoi had pushed for it. This was his baby. It had a lot of impressive technology, but it was just not really ready for market.
He was ahead of his time.
Was that like 95, 97? When was Virtual Boy?
I'd have to look up the exact date.
Yeah.
But around that time frame. This was
it was probably like 8 or 9 when that came out. So
I remember playing it in like video stores
or something. I don't know, because I was very young. I was very young when that came out.
1994 was the Virtual Boy.
94, yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
I was 8 years old when it came out then.
Well, Mr. Yokoi was kind of disgraced after the Virtual Boy came out.
Which is such a bummer, because again, it was just ahead of its time.
Yeah. Despite all of his achievements, this black mark on his record kind of did him in. In Japan, people don't usually get fired. I mean, Mr. Yamauchi certainly didn't follow that edict all the time. He fired a lot of people, but Mr. Yokoi wasn't fired. He was just kind of reassigned to a much less prestigious and, maybe somewhat dishonorable position in Nintendo.
He didn't kill himself, did he?
No, he didn't. He left the company to kind of strike out on his own. In 1997, Mr. Yokoi was driving on a highway in Japan. There was another motorist who had stopped on the side of the road with car trouble. Mr. Yokoi stopped to help this person out, and while he was standing outside of his car, another vehicle came around just way too fast. Mr. Yokoi was struck and was very sadly killed in this accident. And you know what? I really get really sad when I think about that. It's such a bummer.
That really is. It happened over 20 years ago at this point, but that is really unfortunate. Life cut short. How old was he? Do you know?
Let me look it up real quick.
If he was like 90 or something, then it's like, that's too bad.
That kind of reminds me when the principal character of A Beautiful Mind, John Nash, based on a true story about that world-class economist who kind of had schizophrenia, he and his wife died in a car crash.
Did they? I don't think I knew that.
Mr. Yokoi was only 56 at the time of his death.
Wow, that's way too young.
Yeah, he could still be with us today, and who knows what he would have made had that not happened. So, like I said, it's a tragedy. It makes me really sad. But Mr. Yokoi, I just want to say thank you for everything you did.
Indeed, thank you, sir. Thank you. The Virtual Boy was it was a failure, but it was ahead of its time, way ahead of its time.
Well, on that somewhat somber note, I guess we'll go ahead and wrap up history for today. And I don't know. I think maybe we'll leave it there. Do you guys have anything else you want to say about World 3-3 before we wrap up today?
No, it was a great level, and yeah, I was happy to have played it. Jade?
Agreed. A great level and an even better episode. So.
Heck yeah.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, sir, and thank you for your contributions to Mario and to video games and to everything.
And
that's
look
right.
Both ways next time, right? That's not too soon.
He wasn't crossing the street.
I guess it's not too soon. It's been 20 years or more.
Yeah, well, whatever.
Well,
thank you for listening, folks. We appreciate you tuning in.
Yeah. Thank you, Jay, for being here. You coming back for World 3-4, Jay?
Yes.
You got one more in you?
All right.
You know it. Yes.
All right.
We're coming back with the castle of World 3, the ultimate level. We'll be back in your feed soon. Please follow us on, the Twitters, the Facebooks, all those different things.
The Instagrams. But thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.